Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today, inshallah, we are going to discuss a very important topic in grammar and in English linguistics and English teaching: grammar versus grammary. First, what's the meaning of grammar? The grammar of a language is a codified system consisting of grammatical classes, grammatical word classes, like nouns, verbs, what we call parts of a speech. So it's a codified system in the sense that it gives us rules for a system of organizing these word classes and ways of assembling them into phrases and into sentences. So it organizes these into these parts of a speech, these word classes into phrases and sentences. So it sets the rules for this. Okay, for example, how can we organize a sentence? How can we organize a phrase? Simple phrase, a noun phrase, for example, like a good boy, a good boy. I cannot say good a boy or boy a good. Okay, so this phrase, there are rules for structuring this phrase. Okay, this is called syntax, and syntax is part of grammar. So syntax means these rules for organizing the structure of the sentence, as well as the expression of grammatical concepts such as polarity, number, tense, modality. This is also studied in grammar. Traditionally, grammar was divided into two main branches: syntax and morphology. Syntax means sentence structure, as we said, and morphology means word structure. So when we say grammar, usually and traditionally, we think of two concepts: syntax and morphology. Okay, syntax means sentence structure and morphology means word structure. Here, I'm going to focus on the commonest concept of grammar, which is generative grammar. Generative grammar was introduced by Chomsky. And according to Chomsky, this generative grammar is a system of rules that generates all possible grammatical sentences in a language. So a grammar, according to Chomsky, should give us all the rules that generate all the possible grammatical sentences in a language. Okay, so according to this concept, grammar means a set of rules, okay? That's why sometimes it's called the mathematical grammar, okay? It aims to describe the implicit knowledge, to describe, of course, it's part of the descriptive approach to grammar, to describe the implicit knowledge that the speakers of a language have about the structure and formation of sentences. So we describe how native speakers use language to make correct or grammatical structures. Okay, so we can give or describe these rules that give us grammatical structures in a language as it is used by the native speakers, not used, but actually as it should be used by those native speakers, what's called the competence of those speakers. The key idea is that a finite set of rules can generate an infinitive number of sentences, providing a comprehensive model of a language. So we have a finite, okay, means limited number of rules, okay, that can generate unlimited or limitless number of sentences. Okay, so we have, for example, phrase structure rules in generative grammar. NP plus VP. This is the structure of the sentence. This rule can generate an infinite number of sentences. Noun phrase plus verb phrase. This is the structure of the sentence. So we can generate an infinite number of sentences using this, okay, this single rule, okay? So that is the meaning of generative, to generate. Generate. From these rules, we generate an infinite number of sentences. Syntax and semantics. In generative grammar, in the generative approach and in Chomsky conceptualization of grammar, syntax, which studies sentence structure, is detached from semantics, separate from semantics, which studies sentence meaning. So, according to Chomsky, we can generate well-formed structures in the sense that they are grammatically correct, but actually they are semantically odd, semantically unacceptable. They don't have meaning, okay? They are nonsensical. For example, this is a very famous sentence generated by Chomsky. The colorless green ideas sleep furiously. The colorless green ideas sleep furiously. According to its structure, syntactic structure, okay, it's well-formed. We call it well-formed. In the sense that syntactically it's acceptable because it's composed of a noun phrase plus verb phrase. This is a noun phrase. The colorless green ideas, this is a noun phrase composed of the head, which is ideas, this is the noun. Green is an adjective. Colorless is another adjective. And that is a determiner or an article. This is that noun phrase, NP, plus VP, plus verb phrase. And the verb phrase here is composed of sleep, this is the verb, and plus adverb, okay, furiously. So, yes, this is acceptable and well-formed structure. But what about its semantic meaning? Semantic meaning. Does this sentence make sense? Actually, this sentence is often used to illustrate the distinction between syntax, the structure of the sentence, and semantics, the meaning of a sentence. Of course, semantically, it's nonsensical. Okay, it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Why? Because semantically, if we analyze it semantically, colorless is contradictory with green. How to be green and to be colorless at the same time? There is contradiction in meaning. Okay, so green ideas sleep and furiously. How to sleep and to be furious at the same time? Because sleep means relaxation and furiously means anger. Okay, so there is contradiction. Okay, so yes, you can have a sentence, okay, which is structurally acceptable, but semantically it's nonsensical, unacceptable, odd semantically. Okay. So actually, for a long time, grammar was used for setting these rules, was dedicated to rule creation, to the creation of rules or generating rules. Okay. So many people think that the study of grammar is detached from the other skills of language. Here, we would have another view of grammar. Grammary. What's the meaning of grammary? Oh, actually, this concept, this term was devised by Diane Larsen-Freeman. She was a linguist. She's still alive. She's a linguist, okay? She devised this concept, grammary, okay, which focuses on viewing grammar as a dynamic and functional aspect of language use. Oh, so grammar is not a fixed concept or a static concept, okay? But it's a dynamic process, okay? It's associated with other aspects of language and language use, okay? So grammaring is sometimes called the fifth skill of language because the word grammaring, it's a gerund, okay? So it's an ing form. And instead of using grammar, which is a static concept, we use grammaring as a dynamic concept, okay? As if it were a process, okay? A dynamic process. Like what? Like reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Yes, because grammaring is a gerund like these words, okay? It's structured in the same way, ing, okay? So it shows the process. That's why it's considered a skill, okay? So this is the meaning of grammaring. What are the principles of grammaring? How grammaring, the approach to grammar, according to Larsen-Freeman, how grammar is conceptualized. Okay. Grammar is conceptualized according to the following key principles. Okay. Number one, according to this approach of grammaring, number one, grammar is conceptualized as a process. Grammar is not just a set of rules to be memorized, but a process of creating meaning through languages. So grammar is not just a set of rules, okay? As we said in generative grammar, grammar was a set of rules, okay? But here, grammar is not just rules to be memorized, but a process of creating meaning through language. So we create meaning through language. So when we use grammar, we use it to create meaning. It's not detached from semantics. It's not detached from meaning. This involves understanding how grammatical structures are used in different contexts to convey specific meanings. So when I use the passive voice and the active voice, I should not focus on the structure of the passive and the structure of the active voice. No, I should focus on the difference in meaning between using passive and using active, okay? Number two, form, meaning, and use. Effective grammar instruction integrates form. Effective grammar instruction, if I'm going to teach grammar, I should integrate form. Form means syntax, the structure of the grammar, okay? But I should not separate it. I should integrate it with meaning, the semantic aspects. So when I teach grammar, I should integrate it with the semantic aspects. What are the semantic aspects of this structure? Okay, when should we use this structure? And use the pragmatic real-world application. The pragmatic real-world application. Learners should understand how grammatical forms function to convey particular meanings in a specific context. So here, it's syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. They are integrated. So when I teach you that when you want to ask someone to ask for something, you can use, give me a pen. Could you give me a pen? I'll be grateful if you could give me a pen. These are different grammatical structures. But what are the pragmatic usages? Of course, they differ in meaning, and they differ also in degrees of politeness. Okay? They differ in degrees of politeness. So here, the uses of these grammatical structures is very important. This is the pragmatic functions of grammar. Contextualization. Grammar should be taught and practiced in context, emphasizing how it functions in real-life communication. Yes, when I give a piece of grammatical structure, I should tell the students how to contextualize this, how to set this in context. It should be used in this context, not in that context, okay? So, for example, when I say have to and must, not as fixed rules, but I should tell them that have to is usually used in informal language, but in writing, in formal writing, we avoid using have to, but we use must, for example, okay? And going to and will, okay? Going to is not acceptable in academic writing, in formal writing, okay? So we should avoid going to in this context, okay? So here, when I make this link between context and grammar, here grammar becomes functional, not just a set of rules. Interaction and communication. Yes, when we teach grammar, engaging in meaningful communication is crucial for learning grammar. So grammar should not be set of rules or teaching grammar through exercises of grammar only. No, they should use this rule in communication. For example, ask them to tell a story in the past tense. After teaching them past tense, ask them to tell a story in the past tense, something that happened to you in the past. So here you can communicate with your students, okay, and ask your students to communicate with themselves using the grammatical rule, okay. Interaction provides opportunities for learners to practice and refine their grammatical skills in authentic situations. So now I can use it in speaking, I can use it in reading, I can use it in listening to understand, okay? And I can gauge their understanding of reading, their understanding of listening, okay? And how they can write using these grammatical structures, okay? For example, I told them that different types of sentences, simple, compound, complex sentences. So I asked them to use these structures in writing, for example. Okay, so you are going to write using simple and compound sentences, okay, using complex sentences. So they can make use of what they have studied in grammar, okay? So they are not studying grammar for the sake of grammar, rules for the sake of rules, okay? Number 5, dynamic and adaptive. Dynamic in the sense that, as we said, grammar is part of the other skills. It's dynamic process. And adaptive means I can adapt these grammatical rules to be suitable for writing, to be suitable for speaking, for listening, for reading. So what is suitable, what is appropriate? So I'm not talking about the acceptable grammatical structures, but the appropriate grammatical structures, okay? In the sense that they are appropriate for a specific communicative event, okay? I'm speaking formally, so I should use formal grammatical structures. I'm writing formally. I cannot use contractions or ellipses, for example, okay? So what is acceptable in one situation may not be acceptable in another. For example, do you have any money? Sure. Just one word. It's not a complete sentence, but it's here. It functions as a complete sentence. Its function here. It gives the meaning of sure I have. Okay. So this is acceptable in conversation. Okay, but in academic writing, formal writing, I cannot use such contraction, such ellipses, okay, in these types of registers. Holistic learning. Holistic learning, according to Grammarly, we should integrate grammar with the other skills in the sense that we are teaching English in a comprehensive way, comprehensively. And this, the meaning of holistic means comprehensive. Grammar instruction should be integrated with other language skills, such as reading, writing, speaking, and listening. This holistic approach ensures that learners develop a comprehensive set of language abilities, So, of course, I cannot read without understanding the grammar, or cannot write without grammar. I cannot speak without grammar. I cannot listen without grammar. But of course, what I mean by grammar here is the functional grammar, okay? The grammar that focuses on usage, not just on cramming rules or memorizing rules, okay? So this is the concept of grammar. Example of grammaring activity, okay? Holistic learning activity. How can we use grammaring, the concept of grammaring in an activity, okay? And how can we gauge the understanding of our students, okay? Through the application of grammatical rules on different skills. Holistic learning activity, a day in the life, journal project. So after teaching a grammar lesson, you are going to ask your students to do this activity. A day in the life, a day in the life, a day in your life, okay? Journal project. It's like a diary writing. Objective. What is the objective of this activity? To integrate grammar instruction with reading, writing, and listening skills by having students create a present and present a journal entry that describes a typical day in their life. So this is the objective of this project, okay? So you are not going to use grammar alone. It's not a grammar activity, but here I want you as a student to integrate grammar instruction with reading, writing, speaking, and listening skills, okay? So it would be a common factor between these skills. Instructions, pre-activity, preparation, reading. Provide students, yes, number one, reading. Provide students with a few sample journal entries that demonstrate different grammatical structures. So they are going to read journal entries using different grammatical structures like past tense, present continuous, conditional sentences, okay, whatever grammatical rule they have studied, okay? Discuss these samples in class, highlighting the grammar points. Okay, so I ask them, give me examples from this sample journal entry. Give me sentences that have past tense, that have present continuous, that have conditional sentences, okay? Discuss these samples in class, and you ask your students to explain the meaning of these grammatical structures in this reading, okay? How they are used in this reading. So now, after reading, I have an idea about how to use past tense, present continuous, conditional clauses in writing, in writing journal entries. So when I'm reading, I can understand how these structures are already used in real life situation. Grammar folks, review specific grammar points that will be emphasized in the active, such as verb tenses, conjunctions, and descriptive adjectives. Okay, so I focus on and I review specific grammar points, okay, that would be used in this activity. So after reading, we have the writing phase. The writing phase, okay? Students write a journal entry entitled "A Day in My Life." a day in my life, incorporating the grammar points discussed. So children now, or students now, are going to write a day in my life. Okay, yes, this is a journal entry. And they are going to incorporate the grammar points discussed. For example, they're going to use tenses, present tense or past tense, present continuous and past continuous. You're going to use conjunctions. You're going to use adjectives. Okay, descriptive, different types of descriptive adjectives. So the focus here is on how to make grammar functional. Encourage students to use a variety of sentence structures, tenses, and descriptive language. Provide a checklist that includes the grammar elements they should include. At least 3 different verb tenses, use of conjunctions, descriptive adjectives. Sorry. So I give them what they should use. Okay, not just words. Okay, not just helping words. No, not helping words. We give them structures that they are going to use in this. Okay, I want you to use the present tense here, the past tense. You want you to use conjunctions. We want you to use coordinating conjunctions. For example, I want you to use subordinating conjunctions like 1, 2, 3, and so on. Okay, so now we go to speaking and listening. Presentation preparation. Yes, I want you to speak. To speak about what? To speak about what you have just written. Students prepare to present the journal entry to the class. Encourage them to practice their pronunciation, intonation, and fluency. So here, you should encourage them to practice how to speak, okay? How to speak in front of the class, how to speak, and to use correct pronunciation, correct intonation, and fluency. Listening activity. During the presentations, classmates listen actively and take notes on the key points of each journal entry. They should also note any interesting grammatical structure used by their peers. So while listening to their peers, they can take notes, okay? They can take notes in order to present by themselves. Speaking activity, each student presents the journal entry to the class. This helps them practice speaking skills and apply grammar points in a spoken context. So here, after listening, they can give presentation, speak, they can use correct pronunciation, they can use fluency, intonation, rhythm. So here, although I focus on grammatical aspects, but of course, in using this integrated approach where all the 4 skills are integrated with grammar or grammarly, here students can understand that these grammatical rules are not just crammed or memorized, okay? They are practiced, and it's impossible for them to forget these rules, okay? But if you just teach them the rules for the sake of memorizing these rules, okay, without practice in speaking and writing and listening, so they would find that it's useless just for exams, okay? So here, there is a wide difference or a wide gap between theory and practice. If you teach grammar alone, okay, separated from meaning, separated from context, separated from pragmatics, separated from communication, okay, this means that there is a wide gap between theory and practice. But the concept of grammaring means that grammar is integrated with listening, speaking, reading, and writing. I hope that it's a useful session, and I hope that you can understand what I intended to convey in this session. Thank you very much, and Till we meet again, I wish you best of luck, inshallah. Thank you very much. أشكركم والسلام عليكم.